Hi guys, welcome back to the Fun on Weekdays podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Palick, and today I have two things that I want to share with you before we get into today's guest. The first thing is the most terrifying thing that has happened to me in a really, really long time. I want to preface this story by telling you that this is a huge warning. I know majority of the people that listen to my podcast are all women. A lot of you are out shopping for the holidays. You probably think it's just a fun, innocent night shopping alone in the dark, but everyone beware, okay? So I basically live in HomeGoods. I go to HomeGoods almost every other day. I have been trying to decorate my house and get it ready for my family. My sisters, my parents, their boyfriends, her husband, everyone is coming to stay with me December 26th until through the new year. And so I'm trying to furnish my guest bedrooms and get everything good and ready for them. So the other day, I'm at HomeGoods. Per usual, I'm alone. I'm wearing this red matching cardigan sweater. It's a little tank top and a sweater set from Target. And I'm wearing these red striped pajama pants. You cannot miss me. I am a walking Target, okay? And so I'm there alone. I'm just shopping around the store. I'm going through all the sections I usually do. When I go to HomeGoods, I start by going into the floral section. And then I make my way around through the dishes to the pillows, and then I work my way through the center. So at this point, I had recognized that there was this guy that I kept making eye contact with. And at first, it felt so innocent. It was like, oh, it seems like he's going to ask me a question or maybe ask me for advice as if he was shopping for someone, because how often do you see a middle-aged man in HomeGoods alone? Hardly ever, because HomeGoods is not meant for boys. No, HomeGoods is for girls only. So I'm like, okay, at first I don't think anything of it. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. To my fault, I am in the wrapping paper aisle. Also, side note, why does nobody tell you how hard it is to pick wrapping paper? My mom growing up curated the perfect collection of wrapping paper. We'd have 5 to 6 to choose from. They all went together. We had a collection of bows. And every time we had Christmas, our presents looked so good and curated under the Christmas tree. So I'm in this aisle for about 30 minutes trying to decide which one is the best. And I see this guy walking back and forth from my aisle. And I'm like, what could he possibly be looking for? And then I started making eye contact with him, because up until then it was just peripheral vision. I'm like, what is he doing? Pacing. When I make eye contact with him, he kind of looks me up and down. And I know that you guys all know that feeling where someone that you are clearly not even remotely interested in and you are very kind of alarmed by they give you that look and they check out your entire body, and you just feel an immediate ick, a chill. And so I started becoming really aware of it. And I was filming these TikToks while I was in HomeGoods. And luckily, when I started realizing that he was kind of following me around the store, I stopped looking at my phone, because I think he had been following me the entire time, but I wasn't paying attention because my head was in my phone. I was texting my mom, asking her for her advice. And so he walks back one more time. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to see if he's moving to wherever I am. So I start kind of squatting so that he can't see my head over the aisle. And sure enough, he walks over to check if I'm still in the aisle, sees that I am, and then he goes into the aisle that's diagonal from me, which is an aisle full of candlesticks and coffee table books. He picks up a coffee table book and he's acting like he's reading it. I'm like, I am not an amateur. I come to HomeGoods far too often to know that every single coffee table book that is here has no text in it. It is all floral arrangements, recipes, or home decorations. And I can guarantee you that this man does not care about any of those three things. So he was clearly just trying to pretend like he was reading a book so that he could keep me in his vision. I squatted down, I moved to a different aisle, and then I went up to go to the register. And I was just trying to make sure that he didn't see that I was checking out or anything, that I had kind of lost him. So as I'm up at the register, there's this younger girl checking me out, and I just am so frantic, looking over my shoulder, looking around at my surroundings. I'm like, I'm so sorry if I'm being rude to you. I don't mean to. I don't know if I'm just paranoid. Maybe I'm just in my head, but I feel like this guy has been following me around and he's here alone. And I'm just worried that if I leave here, he's going to follow me. So she says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. We'll keep an eye out. We can have one of the guys working here walk you out to your car if you want. I know it's dark out. So I look around the room. I do a check. I don't see his head above any of the aisles. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's just me, because we all tell ourselves that we're being dramatic or we're in our heads and we don't trust our gut instincts. I'm like, no, it's okay. But if you guys could just kind of stand by the door in case, anything were to happen. So I walk out, and luckily I was in one of the very first parking spots. I'm walking, and out of the corner of my eye to the right, I see this person kind of like walking in from the other side. So it was almost like he was just popping up out of the darkness because it was around 6 o'clock. The sun had set. There was only one light in the parking lot. And so I see him. And I'm about 10 feet from my car. So I don't want him to see what car I'm getting into, to know what car I drive or my license plate to then follow me. I turn around. He's about 20 feet away from me. I act as if I forgot something in the store. I have my wrapping paper roll ready to go to use it as a sword if I need to. And I walk back into the store. My heart is beating out of my chest. I felt like I had this insane amount of adrenaline that I cannot explain. And one of my absolute biggest fears, and I have this dream all the time, where there is a man or someone trying to like come and kidnap me or assault me, and I scream out and nothing comes out of my mouth, and it's just absolute silence. And I feel like in that moment, I was so scared that if he were to come over to me and he were to wrap his arms around me and try to put me in his car, that nothing would come out of my mouth. So I was just feeding off of this adrenaline, like, holy shit, what is about to happen to me? Go into the store. I tell the girl, I'm like, oh my God, did you see him come out? He was just there. He was following me. She's like, yeah, we did. Let's have the other guy take you to your car in like a couple minutes. So I didn't see the other guy get into his car and drive away. I don't actually know if he had really left, but one of the HomeGoods employees walked me to my car, and that was it. I then made a TikTok about the experience because I'm like, well, if this is happening at a lot of places, because it is holiday season, a lot of women are going and buying Christmas gifts because let's face it, I feel like in every family, the mom or the female is typically buying a lot of the gifts. And a lot of times, like, you go alone and it's dark out. You're probably just so worried about like getting things that you need or trying to get in and out of stores that you're not paying attention to what's going on around you. So that's why I made the TikTok. My heart dropped because there was a girl who commented and she said, I was just at the HomeGoods in Sunset Valley and the exact same thing happened to me. And I replied and I said, can you describe what the guy looked like? When I saw her text, I immediately started crying. She explained the exact same guy. He was like a middle-aged man. He was thin. He had tan skin, dark hair, and he just had this like really peculiar vibe to him. And so when I saw that she had said that at the same location, a man that looked very similar, now I'm like, okay, well, there goes my fun weekday activity, because my fun every day is to go to HomeGoods, and now I can't go there because it's tainted with creepy men. So that's the one update I wanted to give you guys. Sorry, that was kind of a long story, but just to be super aware of your surroundings this holiday season, even though you think people are innocent, always trust your gut instinct. Thank goodness I turned around. You never know what could happen to you. So shop with people, and if not, like, always be aware of the people around you. Second thing, on a lighter note that I wanted to share, is that it's officially December, which means we just started our 25 days of fun on December 1st. So 25 days of fun is 25 days of giveaways, discounts, fun holiday activities. And it started December 1st with an Austin, Texas girls trip giveaway, where I'm giving away 4 round trip flights to Austin and a 3-night stay at a super cute Airbnb. And I am also curating the itinerary for your girls trip, which will be super fun. I don't know who's gonna win, if they'll like want to hang out with me or not. If you want to hang out with me, I can make that happen and I'll like be a part of your trip. But who knows? Whoever wins might not care. They might not know who I am. They might have just followed me and they might be like, we don't really want to hang out with you. So yeah, we'll see who wins. I'm really excited. The giveaway is still open if you haven't entered it yet. It's on our Instagram and it ends this Friday on December 8th. And then there's a couple other giveaways that are still currently active. Everything is being posted on our Fun on Weekdays Instagram, so you can catch up with everything there. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. You do have to be subscribed in order to win any of the giveaways. It's kind of just like a second layer to make sure you're a legitimate person. And then also, we're sending daily emails too, so that you don't miss whatever the giveaway is for that day. Because even myself, I follow people, I follow my family and friends, and I won't see what they post for like months, even though I follow them. So making sure that you don't miss any of the amazing prizes. And today's giveaway is actually with Madison Prewett, who is today's guest. She's giving away 5 of her books, The Love Everybody Wants. And I'm really excited about it because in today's episode, we talk up a lot about her book. We talk about her time on Bachelor. We talk about her marriage and her wedding, friendships, being a pick-me. We talk about a lot of things, and we do talk a little bit about faith, but I want to say that I don't consider myself as someone who is like very religious. I didn't grow up going to church other than on like Christmas Eve and maybe Easter. And so I think a lot of the messages that we share will resonate with anyone regardless of your faith or your religion. And I'm really excited. Madi is super bubbly. I've looked up to her for years since I saw her on TV, and I'm really excited to chat with her today. So everyone welcome Madison Prewett Troutt. Well, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
Woo! I can't believe we're actually just now meeting in real life.
I know. Okay, I have to like admit something to you. Do you remember, fresh off the show, I made a TikTok?
Yes.
About you.
I'm like telling my team earlier, I was like, this is how we know each other.
I'm like so embarrassed now. I have to pull it out of the archives, although I was trying to like hide it deep in there.
No, it's so
like
good.
It is kind of embarrassing. But when you were on the show, I remember I made a comment about like I loved your one sparkly jumpsuit. It was a silver jumpsuit.
Oh yeah, it was like legendary.
It was.
I don't even remember where I got it from, but it was like everyone loved that jumpsuit.
You had like the outfits lined up on that show. It was amazing.
I'm such a jumpsuit girl. I learned that about myself. It was like all I packed.
Jumpsuits over dresses.
Yeah.
Got it.
Time.
So that was like kind of how we met, but over the past couple of years, I've obviously followed your story. And I think it's really cool to see how you've like shared so much about yourself and your faith, your life, your relationships, starting with like you being on the show. Obviously, this is like my only question about it too. I'm not talking about The Bachelor the rest of this. Is my only question.
Bachelor pod.
But I and myself, like so many other women, see you as like this really confident, strong person, and you like really stood your ground and what you believed in on the show. Prior to the show, I don't think as many people maybe knew about like your faith and how much that like revolved, or not revolved, but kind of influenced your decisions. Yeah. So after the show, when you started posting more about your faith and you're like, oh, the reason why I was able to be so confident is because of this, and it's because of my relationship to God. Do you think that kind of changed people's perspectives at all?
Yeah, it was really interesting to see, like, even so, like, for me, I actually went to Bible college like before I went on The Bachelor, and so I thought I was going to do ministry full time. That was like my goal. Thought I was going to marry a pastor.
Okay.
And had actually dated a guy for 4 years who was a pastor. We broke up, and I was like, God, I'm never going to marry a pastor. And then now my husband is a pastor, and I'm like, great, perfect. But at the time, I was like, I'm not going to marry a pastor. And okay, what does like it look like to be a ministry? End up like going on the show, and I was like, this is not where I imagined my life, you know, to be, and where God would take me. Went on the show, and what was really cool is like even during like filming and recording, I had so many opportunities, even with like the girls on the show and with other people that were around, to just like share my faith in a super authentic way, and not even like me bringing it up, but other people asking me questions and just like seeing me reading my Bible and, you know, different things like that. And I just got to have like super authentic conversations. And then of course towards the end of like, you know, airing the show, there was like moments where I took a stance like for purity and took a stance for my faith. And I think that was really where people saw like, oh, this girl is like a really strong believer. Like her faith means everything to her. And it was really cool. Of course, there was like a lot of praise and people saying that's amazing. Oh my gosh, you've encouraged me and inspired me. But of course, at the same time, there's also going to be hate and being misunderstood and people attacking, you know, your values and your faith. And so those are moments I just had to truly be like, okay, who am I? What do I believe? And not allowing like other people to determine like my confidence in what I believe and in who I wanted to be. And so, yeah, I think that was like really important for me to be asking myself like those internal questions consistently of like, yeah, who am I? And like, what do I believe? Because with all this pressure and with all of these opinions, it's really easy to start changing myself or compromising myself for the approval of people, or just to be picked, or just to be liked, or just to be wanted. I think that's a real pressure we all feel like often. And I felt it before the show. I felt it since the show, and I felt it on the show. And so, yeah, I think it definitely like strengthened my faith in what I believe, going through something like The Bachelor. And a lot of people since then have definitely asked like, wow, like tell me more about your faith. Or, a lot of girls saying like, hey, you've given me the courage to take a stance in purity or in my faith, or to dive deeper with God, or whatever it may be. And that's just been so cool to hear.
Yeah. You mentioned that you wanted to feel wanted, to feel picked. And you mentioned that in your book. And before I like bring up that excerpt.
Yeah, excerpt. No, I tried to say that word the other day and I was like, do you say the P? Excerpt?
I don't know. Excerpt? Someone out there is going to correct me.
Yeah, they're going to call us out.
But with your book, so now this is now the second book that you've written. I am like about halfway through it. I just got it a couple days ago, and I'm reading through it like it's nothing. I mean, not that it's nothing, but it's just so easy to read. So do you have any background like in being an author and in writing? Was that ever the path that you wanted to take, that you knew was later on down the line, maybe after the show? Is that something that you always wanted, or is that something that just came with the platform that you had?
Yeah. So I actually started writing my first book before I went on The Bachelor, which is what was crazy. And it happened very like organically. I was going through a breakup. I was struggling in a season of singleness. My mom encouraged me, hey, I feel like you're supposed to start writing. And I'm like, to who? For what? Like, who's going to buy my book? Like, no one cares about I was just like a small town girl in Alabama working in foster care and adoption, going through a breakup. And I'm like, what am I writing for? But okay, I'm going to do it. And so I started writing, and not knowing what it was for, not knowing if it was a book, a blog, just for myself, therapy, my own journal, I don't know. And started writing then. And then when I came off the show, that was when I had opportunities, different publishers like agencies reached out wanting me to publish a book. And so that was kind of like what got it all started. But I had started writing even before the show, and I didn't have like all this crazy background. It was just, I majored in communications at Auburn. And so I had, I guess, some writing experience as well as some speaking experience before I went on the show. But other than that, no, it was really just trial and error. And I'm definitely still learning. I feel like I have improved even from like my first book to this book. And I think I'll just continue to improve and get better as I surround myself with other great writers and communicators, and just like learning from other people who have been in the game for a lot longer than I have. But yeah, I just try to be like super honest. Like I'm like, this is me preaching to myself, and like this is just me honestly like heart on my sleeve saying this is what I'm going through, and I'm definitely not perfect and I'm struggling, but here's what I've learned along the way. Because I know when I was in like seasons of singleness or dating and evaluating, like, is this the person, the one I want to spend the rest of my life with, or how do I build confidence, and just all of those questions that I think we often wrestle with. I wanted a book that was just like super authentic and not like, here's the 20 steps and like, here's how I did it perfectly, but like, hey, here's how I fell, here's how I messed up. And then also here's what I learned. And that was what I was looking for when, I was in those seasons. So I hope to be that for other people.
Yeah. When I was reading it, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm literally talking to her right now. You write it in such a way that it's very personable, and there's still a lot of depth to it, but it's so easy to read. I was just flipping through the pages last night and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm already like halfway through this book right now. And I really start to envision a lot of the like scenarios that you described to us, like when you're in high school or you're in these like tough moments and the thoughts that go through your head. And I think it's really easy to do that because I've also been in a lot of similar positions before. So your book, obviously you are very strong in your faith. For anyone who is maybe not Christian or maybe is not, what's like the correct way to say that? I'm like, I don't even know, like is not very strong in their faith. Yeah. What is your message to them that like wants to pick up this book, but they feel like maybe it's not for me because I don't really align with that?
Totally. I mean, I'm definitely true to myself, what I've found and what I believe to be the source of all love and life. But at the same time, I was very intentional with like the title of this book, and I was going back and forth for a really long time. I was like, what do I call it? And that's what's interesting about writing a book is like, you don't start with the title and then you're like, let's write. It's like, I just started writing all these thoughts. I started preaching to myself, encouraging myself, reminding myself of truth when all I felt was lies. And in the midst of that, it's like I'm almost done with the manuscript and I'm like, so what do I call this thing? And I was trying to figure that out. And I remember going back and forth with like my agents and my team. And this title, The Love Everybody Wants, kind of just like hit me. And the reason I loved that so much was because it has the word everybody in it. Because I wanted this to be a message for everybody. Like no matter where you are in your faith journey, no matter single, dating, engaged, married, no matter where you're at, like I wanted this to be a message that could apply to everybody, no matter the season that they're in or where they find themselves. Because something that I really tried to do with this book, even though I add in like, you know, biblical principles and my, you know, perspective on how God has, you know, spoken to me through these different instances in dating and singleness and engagement and marriage. Like one thing I really tried to do was each chapter title is after like a cultural, you know, trend or phrase or thing that we've heard, you know, a million times on like TikTok or whatever it may be. And so I really tried to tackle like all these things that so many of us have like grown up hearing or have believed or whatever it may be. And then just adding like my own experience to it. And so, yeah, I do think that this is a message that really can apply to anybody, no matter where they're at. Even if you're like not a Christian or you've been following God your whole life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if I would ever necessarily consider myself like very religious. My family grew up going to church on like Christmas Eve and Easter and like sometimes here and there throughout. I don't know if I ever necessarily had like that strong relationship, but more so recently I've been like a lot more curious.
Yeah.
And a lot more people in my life that I look up to do have a strong relationship. And so when I was reading this book, I was like, okay, I don't necessarily feel like I need to know what all of these verses mean or what all of these biblical references are, but it is kind of like a really good introduction for someone who is curious in learning more and like maybe getting more in touch with it.
Yeah.
So the first question that I have about the book, I literally highlighted it. Okay. I highlighted it. I was reading it out loud to Connor and I'm like, oh, do we have a highlighter? Because I need to like remember this.
Literally me. I'm like, do I have a pencil around here? I'm like, I feel like I've used a pencil since I was in like junior high.
Okay.
I love it.
This is what like really resonated with me. And mind you, this is 12 pages in. And that's like 12 pages after the foreword, after like all of the titles and everything. So you say, I realized that young Madi's reaction was to develop an overachieving performance-based mindset, doing everything she could to prove that she would always be the first pick. After that moment in the bathroom stall, young Madi began to seek worth in getting attention from guys. Winning them over brought a rush of emotion, and as she won them over, she would dump them because they no longer served a purpose. They proved she was worthy of their attention. They proved that she was their first choice. This performance-based mindset trickles into everything with school, faith, family, friendships, and identity. Okay, so that really hit home for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, so true. We've all been there. We've all wanted a guy to like us back just to prove that someone likes us. So I want to hear how this mindset, like, is this something that you recognized before going into the show? Is this something that you displayed while being on the show? And how do you move past that for your relationships and your life in general after it?
Yeah.
Like, how do you get through, you know, this, what's the word?
Like
Acknowledgement.
Pick me mindset. Well, and I think
Pick
that
me.
pick me, please,
Pick me.
want me, choose me. Yeah. I had that most of my high school and even college experience. And what you're referring to when you say Madi in the bathroom stall, for those listening, they're like, huh, Madi in the bathroom stall? They're like, context, please. So I had just found out that I'd gotten cheated on. I was 16 years old. And I tried to play it cool. I tried to be tough on the outside, but then I immediately ran to the bathroom and I started bawling, crying. And I remember having this moment in the bathroom stall, questioning my worth, questioning my value, questioning everything about me because this guy chose someone else. And immediately it made me question who I was and if I was enough. And that like you just read, trickled into everything, because then from that place, I began feeling like, okay, now I have to prove that I'm worthy. Now I have to perform to be picked. Now I have to prove to everybody else that like I am enough. I am someone's first choice. And then it also gave me like this hardened heart where I was like, I am so afraid of being rejected and hurt again that I'm going to put walls around my heart and not let anyone have a chance to hurt it again. And I think it was for me when I did, really start going all in with my faith and allowed God to just like heal those parts of my heart that I had allowed other people to determine my worth and value. He just began showing me, Madi, you're so valuable in my eyes. Like you don't have to try and find that in someone else. And you don't have to have your value and validation be in the hands of other people. You can actually walk into relationships and situations from a place of abundance rather than lack, hoping they'll choose you and want you. And it took time. Like that wasn't like a one moment thing. Yeah. Like even to this day, like, are you kidding? Like I still have moments where I'm like, gosh, I hope they choose me. I hope that they accept me. I hope they like me. That's a very real feeling and emotion. And so I do think even though you may have this like groundbreaking moment, it's still an everyday decision. And so for me going on the show, I definitely was, I had already really dove in deep in my faith and like knew who I was and knew where my confidence came from and knew where my value came from. And so I really was able to like go on a show like that. And plus I'd never really watched The Bachelor before. And so I was a little naive too to like how it all worked.
Yeah, it's basically a competition and you're like in this.
I'm like, yeah. So you're going to choose me? Like you're going to give me the rose? And I really didn't know. Like all I knew was like, I'm entering into this thing. I have no idea what to expect, but I know who I am. And I was able to come at it from that perspective. And I do think that's why so many girls were reaching out to me saying like, you've really encouraged me. And like you standing up for like your values and your standards and knowing your worth, like has really inspired me to do the same, which is really cool. Cause obviously I was just being true to myself, Yeah. Like I didn't know how it would be displayed or how people would respond to it. But I think what's cool is like, I was able to enter that scenario and be like, okay, I'm not going to change myself, compromise, or just be whoever you want me to be in order to be picked and liked. Like I'm going to be authentic and true to myself. And if you don't choose me and pick me, I know there's something better out there for me. Yeah. And I would just I would have to remind myself of that because of course, when you find yourself in situations where you really want to be picked, like there were many moments where I literally had to remind myself and other girls like, hey, if you don't get a rose, like this doesn't mean rejection. Like if you are not given a rose by The Bachelor, like this does not mean you're not worthy. Mm-hmm. Like this just means God has something so much better for you. And this door closed is just another opportunity for a better door to open. And I had to continue to remind myself like, Madi, your worth is not in this rose. Madi, your worth is not in being picked by this guy. And then really even like flipping the mindset of like, okay, you picked me, but like, I pick you?
That's exactly where I was going with that. Is like at the end of the day, he actually did pick you. But then when it came down to your decision of, do I pick you back? Like, I think that was a really pivotal moment for a lot of people to watch of like, holy crap, wait, she actually has a say in it too, because you compete for so long for the attention and for the approval. Totally. And then once you get it, it's like, wait, do I actually want that? Because I have to pick you too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what was that moment like for you to even come to that realization?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's like, okay, at the end of the day, we're getting close to like engagement. And so now it's me really asking the questions like, do I see myself spending the rest of my life with this person? Are they going to push me closer to God? Are they going to push me to my purpose? Are they going to be a good father to my kids? Like, are we good complements to one another? And if not, then I don't want to stay in this longer, not only because of like what I deserve, but also because of what he deserves, Right. And if we're not God's best for each other, I don't want to waste my time or yours. And so eventually, like once I had that realization, I was like, I have to act on it, even though it was hard and painful. Yeah. I was like, it's more worth it to walk away and know that I'm walking towards like a better yes and God's best than to stay in something that I know is not right. Mm-hmm. And that was a hard realization for me, like in that moment, but I just like knew I had to do it. And I'm obviously now so thankful that I did. And it did lead to God's best. And now I'm happily married and I'm with the love of my life. But I think that can be really hard. Like I've been in many situations, even off of like the show and other relationships, where it's like I had this like check in my spirit where I was like, I'm supposed to get out of this relationship. This is not God's best for me. And I like would feel it often, but I would just push it down and ignore it and be like, no, like they like me, they want me, they pick me, they choose me. And like, it feels good to be wanted. It feels good to be loved. It feels good to like not be alone. Like nobody wants to be lonely. Nobody wants to be alone. It's fun to be like dating and stuff. And like eventually I just had to continue to remind myself like of Madi, like what is your purpose in dating? What is your long-term goal and vision? And for me, that was marriage. And so I was like, okay, if he is not going to be that person that is going to push me closer to God and closer to my purpose, then like I got to end this relationship now. And so that ultimately was, you know, why that decision was made. And then it just got all like, you know, then it just kept going, got brought back into it. And then it was like, again, okay, we're back to the same crossroads moment. This isn't going to work out. And it'd be like that. I mean, that's also just another example of just real life. Like I've not been perfect in any like I've had multiple moments of, you know, staying in relationships longer than I should, or being with someone that I knew wasn't God's best for me, or, you know, really being in this weird tension of like, okay, my head knowledge knows this is not God's best, but my heart feels so deeply for this person. And so how do I, like, I'm in this wrestle and tension between my head and my heart. And man, those are just moments where it's like, you can't always let your feelings lead you. You have to ask yourself, like, what do I value most? And like, what is at the end of the day, like my long-term vision and goal? Because that should be what is like guiding my decisions and not just like my feelings, because one day our feelings are one thing and then another day our feelings are another thing. Yeah. And so that's why feelings aren't the best leaders.
And I feel like especially now our feelings are so easily influenced based on what we see and what's surrounding us, especially on social media. Obviously, when you have a public relationship like that, it can easily fluctuate like by the hour.
Totally.
Based on one message that you could see, I'm sure it could just, I mean, I know from my own experience, it could completely change the way that you view things, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay, let's move forward now. We're past that. We're not talking about the show any longer. Yeah. I'm here to talk to you about your current relationship and your marriage. You're a wife. Madison Prewett Troutt. You have a second last name.
I know. It's insane. I'm named after a fish, but it's fine. It's a fish with 2 T's. We're Trout, baby, and it feels good. I am so grateful, truly, that like Grant has come into my life and just the person I am today. I feel like I'm a completely different person than I even was like a year and a half ago. And that just speaks to like when you wait for God's best, like the person that you that he brings into your life, when you have a peace about it and you know he's the best like for you, they just make you so much better and they push you to be like the best version of yourself. And I feel like I've grown so much just in like the year and a half, 2 years of knowing him and being with him.
You said that you've changed a lot since you've met him. And obviously you view this as a really great thing because you feel your most whole, authentic self. For anyone who views your life from the outside, that maybe views that you've changed and they view it as a bad thing and that you've changed for this man, what would your response to that be?
Yeah. I think there's 2 different categories, because I think there's one category where it's like we should not change and compromise ourselves for someone else to be picked, liked, wanted, accepted, etc. I think that gets dangerous in the context of like singleness and dating.
Guilty.
And no, same, which is like, I wrote that, you know, like I was that person that was changing myself, you know, for someone else. And so I think that is a category that's what we have to be careful with. I think within the context of marriage, and once you find like that person that God has for you, I think the beautiful thing about it is like the Bible talks about it, like iron sharpening iron. And it's like, when you think about it, like iron is like 2 really strong pieces like coming together and like sharpening each other to be like stronger and better. And that's how I picture like having like a godly marriage. It's like Grant and I like sharpen each other, and there's moments where that's like uncomfortable and hard, but at the end of the day, like we're making each other so much better. And so I don't even think it's the idea of like we're having to like change for the other person. I think it's more of the idea of like when we constantly walk in the best version of ourselves and like we have our relationship with God like healthy and strong, then the way that we come together is like healthier and stronger, and we're able to really push each other. And naturally, like you just continue growing. Like I think in any relationship, in any friendship, in any romantic relationship, like you want to be continuously growing with that person. I think when you're staying stagnant or worse, like falling behind and becoming a less a less than version of yourself and who you want to be or who you feel like you're called to be, that's when it gets like really hard and dangerous. But I think when you do find the right person, like that person should be pushing you to like be better, and you should be growing into that person like every single day. And so, yeah, I think it's like two different categories. And so it's like, I think you have to be careful within like the singleness aspect of things. But I think within the context of marriage, it's like when you have that right person, they should be pushing you like in your
You should be
everything.
changing and evolving together.
Yeah, together. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So you guys got married as a year?
It's almost been a year. We're literally about to celebrate our 1 year.
We're approaching a year.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. So you guys had a giant wedding, like gorgeous, beautiful wedding. So many people talking about your wedding. Did you see any of the videos of people breaking down your wedding?
No.
No?
I truly like did not see. I think I saw like one video, and some people were like sending me stuff, and I just, again, I try not to like, I think at that time I honestly had like deleted TikTok off my phone because it was mainly on TikTok. I think at that time I had like deleted TikTok off my phone. But no, I wasn't really seeing a ton. I just like heard people like talking about it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of goes into our conversation that we were having before we started recording, but how have you managed like not feeding into other people's opinions and not reading comments and creating that boundary for yourself, especially at the time of a marriage and a wedding when it is like such a huge life moment and you don't want other people's opinions and their videos and their comments to take away from a really special moment.
Yeah. I think what we have to be super careful of is oftentimes we can let other people who don't know who they are and also who don't really even know who you are determine who you are and who you're becoming. Like I think so often I can allow my worth and value to be put in the hands of someone on the other side of like a phone screen who don't even know me, and truly like some people who don't even know themselves, and I'm letting them determine my worth and value. And I've had so many moments of being like, Maddie, snap out of it. Like stop, because at the end of the day, what truly matters is like what God thinks about you and your close family and friends, because those are the ones who really know you and can speak into who you are. And so I think constantly reminding myself of that. Community has been really huge. Like having my sphere, my circle of people who like know everything about me, and they're not just yes people. Like I have people in my life who are like, no, Maddie, like I will call you out. Like that's actually not cute, girl. Like you need to work on that, and having people who will call me out and who will call me higher, keeps me humble, pure, just like focused, right vision, right mindset. And then also I think I have been super guarded and careful and created boundaries with myself for social media. Like I am not reading everything. I'm not looking at everything. I have a team that helps me with everything regarding social media. And I still get on and I still engage with like my friends and things like that. But I'm not reading every single DM and every single comment just because it has negatively affected like my mental health. Mm-hmm. And I've learned too, what's interesting, which I don't hear a ton of people talk about this, but what's really hard is like not even just getting a lot of hate, but even getting a lot of praise. Like both really get to your head and you start feeling this need to like keep up and live for the approval of people. And then you'll start realizing like your whole mindset throughout every day is like, okay, if I post this or if I do this, what will they think about me? How will they respond? What will they say? And that was just a really negative mindset that I had found myself in. And I was like, I have got to start putting up boundaries and realizing I live for the approval of one, which for me is God. And then two, like I'm asking my accountability and community, like, what do you think about me? Like, am I living in a way that I say, like is honorable to God? Like if I say faith is the most important thing in the world to me, is my life reflecting that? And if not, call me out. Like, please, like tell me, let me know. Cause like I can be blind to it, and I think we all can be blind to stuff. But I do think boundaries has been super huge for me on social media. Sometimes I'll just like delete the app off my phone and take a break, or just like, have my team help me with it.
Well, first of all, I'm like so jealous that you have that. I could never, but you are so right. Actually, I've never thought about it on the opposite side. And people do actually have this opinion about influencers all the time, is that like you get hyped up all the time. There's constantly people telling you how pretty you look and how good you look in this outfit, or like always giving you praise, that it is almost an unrealistic reality where like everyone is on your side and everyone is cheering for you. And a lot of times like those comments aren't actually even genuine either.
Yeah. And then just creating boundaries in my life. Like I think sometimes social media just can be so dangerous. And even though it's like Probably not.
No.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, even though it's like unrealistic to be like, go delete your social media. I'm like, no, like we're both on it. Like we both like, we're on social media. We use social media. We love social media. But I do think asking the question of like, who am I following? Like maybe I need to unfollow some people that create, insecurity or make me think, thoughts about myself or about other things that maybe I shouldn't be thinking about. And so for me, I had to unfollow some people. I had to create boundaries around social media because I do think that a lot of times it's through social media where comparison starts coming in, and that just makes you feel less than. And it makes you immediately start being like, oh, they have this or they're this and I'm not, so therefore I'm less than. And it's just like, no, like we're all different. Are there people that have better hair and teeth and clothes and houses, and like this house is amazing? And I'm like, it would be so easy for me to be like, oh my gosh, Jenna, you have the coolest house ever. Like my house is not that cool, whatever. And it's just like, you can just go there, and I think it's really easy to like give into comparison and immediately it make you feel less than. And so I think even a part of confidence is just like, man, be okay with who you're not and don't try and be like someone else. Just be confident in how you're wired and what you have to offer.
I feel like that was a really beautiful piece of advice. I'm so jealous that they get to work with you every day. Because I feel like I would just be like, oh, I'd have no worries. I'd have no insecurities if I get to listen to you just talk like that all the time.
No, they've also seen my not so pretty sides and like my sides where I'm not believing it, and moments where I'm like, hey, can friends, family, team, can y'all encourage me and remind me of who I am? Because I did see like, maybe I didn't make this goal of what I wanted to make, or maybe I got this comment that was super hurtful or whatever it may be. And it's like, you can get super down on yourself and start questioning yourself. And I think that's why it is super important to have people around you to be like, no, like, hey, this is your purpose in this life. And like, no matter what someone else says, like, this is what I see on you. And like, this is what God has for you. And don't let their inability to see your worth make you question it. And so it's helpful to have the right people around you.
Just to wrap things up. So you just came out with your second book. Where can you order it?
So you can go to a few places. theloveeverybodywants.com.
Official.
We weren't too creative. It's just theloveeverybodywants.com, which is the name of the book, the title of the book. And then you can just go to my Instagram at Madi Prewett. You can find the link.
Okay, perfect. And we'll link it too in the episode description as well. Is there anything else that you are planning in the future that you want to share?
So this book is actually going to be a Bible study too, which is super fun. And I'm excited about that. But I don't know. We're like constantly talking as a team, like all the fun new things and ideas. Mm-hmm. So I'll have to let you know in the future what's next. But right now, honestly, I'm just excited that book is out, Bible study is out, things are starting to slow down, holidays are coming up, and I just get to go be a wife.
Oh my gosh, first
I get to just go be a wife, and I just get to like hang with the hubby and put up a Christmas tree or something. Yeah. I'm like, it's October, and I'm like, it's fine.
It's your first Christmas together, married. Second.
Oh, I guess. We literally got married, and then it was like, boom, holiday season. We like went straight into Thanksgiving, then Christmas. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you celebrate that in Waco then, or do you go visit family?
We did Christmas with his family this last year. And we'll do both this year. Okay. So we'll like try and make the effort for both. It's like harder to get to mine because they're further away. His family's 2 hours away from us. Yeah. They're in Dallas. So, it makes it a little bit more challenging to go back home, but I'm like, we have to see my family.
Okay. I love that. And so you live in Waco now, and you said that you've been getting into ministry.
So Grant is working as a young adults pastor at a local church in Waco, Texas called Harris Creek.
Okay. So can people like go to y'all's church and like listen to both of you speak?
Yeah, so I'm not really speaking at the church. I'm kind of really just like, I'm a pastor's wife, Okay. The thing I said I would never be, I'm that. I just get to like be his wife and just like help support the young adults ministry. It's
amazing. Well, I'm so happy that you're happy, and it's been amazing to actually like meet you and talk to you.
I know. I mean, I honestly feel like I know you. Like when I saw you, I didn't even feel like, oh my gosh, I'm meeting her. Like I literally was like, hi friends. Like I felt like we've hung out tons of times. So it's so funny that just...
it is cool, some of the things that social media allows you to do and the ways that you can like build friendships when you've literally never met. So totally. I'm so happy that we had a chance to like sit down and talk. I've been wanting to do this for so long, and I know people are really, really excited about this episode. So show Madi some love. Go buy her book. It's amazing. Seriously, I'm excited to like sit down and read the rest of it. Like I said, I'm halfway through, so I'll have to text you when I get to the end.
I know, you have
the
to.
part
You
that
gotta
you're
let me know all
referring
the
to.
things,
I'm
yeah.
like, I don't even want to know. Don't spoil the surprise for me. I'm like, oh, we got something to get to.
That's amazing.
Thank you, Maddie, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Fun
So
on Weekdays podcast. I will talk to everyone next week. Bye.